All right, sorry about that. Had some connectivity issues with the internet. Hopefully that's straightened out. And just mostly, I think so right now, trying to figure out where a good balance is on all audio stuff. The video's looking good. Now, so yeah, issues trying to sort out there. Alright, so do that. That's working great there. Some sort of weird reverb alpha. Okay, let's see if I can get the audio back so I can do live commentary while I'm playing. Okay, that's sounding a lot better now. Again, unfortunately, I'm dealing with a pretty significant delay here on my end from what's showing up on my screen and what's showing up on YouTube. Hopefully that doesn't cause too much of an inconvenience. It's something I can definitely live with, I think. But we'll just see how it goes from here. So, as you can see, I'm currently running around on Arlundo. Defeated Ornstein Smog on my sorcery build just yesterday. Hold on one second. Okay, so I'm going to have, for this to work, I'm going to have both my capture card and YouTube muted, it seems like. Just dealing with delayed sounds coming from the game, as well as my voiceover is just a bit much. Again, wish I could have a little bit more seamless transaction, but I don't think that's possible just from the encoding and delay issues from the card to online and all that. So anyways, as you can see, I'm currently running around on Arlundo. I defeated Ornstein Smog on my sorcery build just yesterday. She is currently soul level 60. Again, as you can see, my stats are actually pretty spread out, although this is probably one of the more spread out of the characters with spread out stats I've had. This one's working the most effectively, mostly because of the offensive capabilities that sorcery provides. Again, with the stats, you can see everything's mostly in the 20s right now. I'm not doing strength or strength, resistance, or faith. Everything else is about 20. And I plan to continue leveling up those for the most part. I'll probably lay off dex from here on out as I'm leveling, simply because don't really need it for any weapon use, and the casting speed increase for sorceries is not as noticeable as it is for other magics like pyromancies in particular. So, and right now with my leveling up, I'm just trying to get my vitality and endurance to match my intelligence. I'll probably lay off endurance around 30, just because, again, the main thing I need it for is to just poke with my rapier here, and nothing really necessary about it. Again, it might help with blocking more, but as you can see, I tend to avoid blows, and if I'm going melee, I'll try and riposte more than I will just try and block and tank hits like that. So, and while we're on the topic, let's talk about equipment here. I'm currently wearing the Chandler's robes, the blood-soaked skirt, I believe, that drops from the Firelink Shrine Firekeeper, and the Crown of Dusk. I also have the Lucille Catalyst, which is one of the best early game catalysts for sorcerers. Once I get low gains catalyst, I'll probably start using that. I probably won't use the... I might actually use the tin crystallization catalyst for the magic buff, but I'll need to play around with that, see if the loss of if the decreased number of casts actually plays into effect. As you can tell, I'm pretty heavily reliant on my sorceries, so having some longevity in them, especially when just running around as I am now, is fairly important. I don't know, it might be something where I have it and then just switch to it during boss fights, as I could use the having the longevity isn't as important as doing more upfront damage during those boss fights. So, and again, just to give you a quick look at the gear, Enchanted Rapier, Lucille Ivory Catalyst. I do have a Pyro Glove, even though I'm not currently using it. Heater Shield, Crown of Dusk, the Crimson Sealer Robes, Wanderer Manchettes, because I really couldn't find anything that fit the stats I'm looking for better currently, and the Bloodstained Skirt. For rings, I have both the Bellowing Dragon Crest ring and the Wolf ring. And the Wolf ring simply so that when I take a hit, it isn't as devastating, or I can actually cast through the hit. In effect, it allows me to trade blows with sorceries on some of the not as heavy hitting mobs. So, and with my progress currently in the game, as you can see, I have the Homing Soul Mass, but I don't have the Soul Spear yet, which is probably what I'm going to do next after I do a little bit of grinding up here on Orlando to make sure I have enough souls to buy out most of Loghain's basic sorceries. Do that before I place the Lord Vessel. That way I can get duplicates of all of his spells from when he's down in Firelink and when he's up in Sen's Fortress later on in the game. So, and grinding on Orlando is pretty simple. I actually made a misstep here in going back up these stairs. Basically what you do is just run back and forth between the Chamber of the Princess and the bonfire where you actually enter the fortress. So it's kind of a loop that you just sort of repeat going back and forth on. And even though I am relying pretty heavily on my sorceries, as you can see, I'm still going back and forth between sorceries and melee. Simply because in some cases, enemies like this don't give me a good opening to hit them with sorceries, especially something like that great heavy soul arrow. I just simply wouldn't have time to cast it around his shield. And as you can see there, even with the Wolf Ring, I still do not have enough poise to outright tank one of those hits without getting knocked over. So killing these guys with sorcery, it's a matter of dodging back out of the way and then trying to fire off a sorcery before they can recover their shield. again, this can actually be difficult if, as you can see right now, I'm going rather slow, and if it's a matter of I feel I'm just wasting too much of my sorcery on them, just kind of go in with a rapier here and stab them to death. Especially with these royal giant guardians, these guys have such a tendency to turtle that it's generally an issue of hitting them with that first soul arrow and then trying to, if I can bait them into getting hit, then I'll do it, and then getting close here to finish them off with pokes, as by the time I get another opening, they'll do what he was trying to do there and just bunker down and use Great Heal. Again, I probably could interrupt that if I got behind their shield with a sorcery in time, but because their programming has them jump back like that, it makes it much more difficult to actually get behind them and hit them with a heavy sorcery. So, and then for the Silver Knights, I generally go Rapier on there because the Rapier has such a high critical damage that a simple parry, riposte, and they're dead. Again, if they're a stationary one that won't aggro until I get close, what I'll do is Soul Mass. And actually was a bit too close for that to work out how I planned, but whatever. And because I know there's a guy around the corner here, just go with the Soul Mass again. Way too early on that parry. Whoa, misread that. And again, parry, stab, and he's a goner. And while we're on the topic of homing Soul Mass, I've been noticing that the range actually differs depending on the size of your opponent and the hitbox. As you can see, just being in the same room as the Silver Knight was enough to trigger the Soul Mass going after him. Whereas with the Giant Guardians, really you have to be almost on top of them before the Soul Mass will fire off. So instead of doing Soul Mass for this guy, let's just and that was a mistake. Shouldn't have been going for the backstab there. Should have just tried to actually parry him or draw him out into an open frame and hit him with a quicker cast Soul Arrow or Great Soul Arrow. No problem though. Again, all it was in this case was one humanity. I'm not in a position where getting that back is going to be extremely difficult. So let's try this again. And perfect. Exactly how I wanted that to go down. So, and one other thing with the Silver Knights, the game kind of throws you for a loop on this part if you're new here. Generally, what enemies will do when they're charging like that is they'll go straight for the thrust, but the Silver Knights will actually cock their arm back and then do a downward chop with their sword. So the key to parrying that is just wait a fraction of a second longer and they'll actually be right in parrying position with just a small delay on your part. And again, a little bit of back and forth with that Spear Knight. Still not a problem at all. And yeah, so that was one direction of the loop, and now I'm just retracing my steps exactly back to that bonfire of, or the Chamber of the Princess. So in this way, there's actually, you can actually do this back loop a little bit easier than you can do the front loop, because when you do the loop from the Chamber of the Princess, you have to contend with that Dragon Bow Silver Knight that's standing on the stairs down this corner. When you're coming towards the chamber, you can actually get in and around him and draw him directly into melee without really being in any danger, whereas the other way around, you have to come up at his front from the stairs. And this aggro's either one or both of the giants, depending on how you handle the loop. If you do what I do and pull that first giant back up the stairwell towards the boss room where you fight Ornstein and Smog, you only have that one knight coming up behind you. Generally, you can goad that knight into going into melee and finish him off with a quick parry, but that can occasionally pose an issue. So I think at this point, I probably need to reattune some of my magics. As you can see, Soul Arrow still hits for a good amount, but it's not one I'm using regularly, and I don't really have a need at this point to go through Soul Arrow spam. I mean, I can do it, it just takes longer, and I'm getting much more efficiency out of using the Great Soul Arrow and Heavy Great Soul Arrow. Along with Homing Soul Mass. Again, Soul Arrow's main effectiveness seems to be in just pushing enemies around and using the actual quite a bit of force that it has behind it. Again, not anywhere near as much force as something like Soul Spear will have, but still enough to be a threat to especially these spear demons up here on Orlando, if they're on the edges like that. Yeah, it did dodge in time. And that looked to be quite painful. Right in the thigh there. So, just to give you an idea as to why I'm using the rapier on the giants like this. As you can see, when I'm doing that rolling around, avoiding their halberd hits, I can actually get underneath the giants and get behind that massive shield of theirs, which, as you saw, blocks 100% of the sorcery damage, which is actually kind of... Most shields don't do that. None for PvP that I can think of in the game. But, again, it's... anything that hits that shield is not going to do any damage to these giants. So, especially when they start getting low on health, it's easier to try and get directly around the shield. And again, I'm small enough, and the rapier actually has enough of a tracking ability, especially when targeted like this, that you can get around and poke quite easily. So the other question that you might be asking is, why farm here? This probably isn't one of the most efficient soul farming areas, but it is a decent loop. Definitely plenty of other areas I could access and farm souls in. Mainly this area is convenient. It's about level appropriate for me. I'm doing good damage on the enemies, and I'm not so far behind that I'm continually in threat of dying, I guess. So as you can see, I switched out one of my regular soul arrows for a great soul arrow. So that'll give me 30 soul arrows, 40 great soul arrows, 8 heavy soul arrows, as well as the homing soul mass. Again, really at the point in the game where soul arrow is starting to fall behind. Great soul arrow is starting to fall behind a little bit, but definitely still competitive, still an easy hit for... there's still an easy hit with a lot of damage, so I'll probably continue using that. See what Soul Spear and Great Soul Spear have to offer as far as changing that up. And actually we should be heading back to Loghain here pretty soon. So, and as you can see, the trick to dodging out of the way of the giant's halberds is to dodge early, but dodge far enough backwards that you're out of the halberd range. That way you have the majority of their swing still to cast the sorcery, and you don't end up just missing that gap. And again, too close, so I had to dodge to use my invincibility frames instead of dodging to stay clear of the halberd. And again, just getting close and poke him to death. So this is probably the last run I'll do before I head back to Loghain and end this test stream. So, and again, that's kind of the trouble I was saying with this direction of the loop. That knight just sometimes doesn't want to cooperate with pulling that sword out right away and allowing you that clean, easy parry on him. Still not an issue, though. So that's actually another strategy that you can use on the Giants, particularly if you're going for a melee build. It's pretty easy to just sort of stay behind on that shield side of theirs and wait for them to do that smackdown with the shield. If you keep moving in that same quarter turn, the attack will miss you and you'll be right behind them to just lay into them. If you're doing a melee heavy build, that's actually one of the easiest ways to get to them. It's a much easier way to get around that shield without having to play this dodge game and try and get under the shield. Right, so like I said, once I get to this next bonfire here, I will probably warp back to Firelink, pick up some more spells from Loghain, and end this live stream. Oh, wasn't paying attention for him. It's alright. Come at me, brah. Nope. Right, sorry about that, and just figured some humor would be nice. Alright, and now back to Firelink Shrine. And let's see what sort of presents Loghain has for us. Now I'm pretty sure Logan will stay in Firelink Shrine until you go up and fight Seath yourself.
Oh, hello.
Not 100% sure on that, but fairly sure. In either case, it's probably best to buy all your sorceries before actually going up and fighting Seath. Or before actually giving Framp the Lord Vessel, I would recommend.
Heading out. I too will leave soon. Undead or no, I shan't stay here forever. You have great potential. Don't go and die over nothing.
Alright, purchase all the sorceries from Logan.
I too. You have great...
So I think after that, he's probably going to head out again.
Alright.
And again, this is one way that you can achieve the get the achievement for grabbing all the sorceries, is make sure that you talk to Logain down here as well as up in Sense Fortress. Again, just talking to Sigmar there.
Thank you. Now I can continue my duty as a keeper. But I only hope that my impure tongue won't offend. Forgive me. Please, leave Irish.
Alright, so that's it for this test of the live stream. Again, this should go directly up on YouTube. I'm going to make sure that once I'm done here. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, share, favorite, and subscribe. And with that, signing off.